This is Longying Huang, so from Cisco. So my team member is Jessie Wu. She's also from Cisco. So today we're going to talk about the topic about one COI to determine optical module type. So first, let's go to the problem statement. So in today's SONiC, usually user needs to know what specific optics are inserted on the router. So for purpose like debug testing and management. But today's SONiC, there's no clean and unified way to get that. People may have to go through multiple different steps and fields to figure it out by himself. Also, what is worse is that the step and fields can vary from according to different optics type categories. For example, we have QSFP-DD and optics. So we also have QSFP-28 optics. So we also have a corporate cable and the AOC cable. So for all of them, they follow different specs, and they have a totally different way to get optics type. So we have a CMIS spec, and we also have SFF spec. So they have so the flow is quite different. So another problem is that for now there's no clean way to display the optics type for all the ports. So you might have to, the existing COI, you might have to go to multiple pages to gather the information. Last but not least, so it's also not very straightforward to do test automation. So yeah, so next, to get a better understanding about the pain we experience today, let's give a few examples of today's SONiC. So for example, one example I want to give is for QSFP-DD optics. So for this kind of optics, first you have to go to this show interface transceiver EEPROM COI. Then it will give you a bunch of information. On that, you have to search for this identifier field, and if it's QSFP-DD, then you go to this application advertisement section. So then you have to search for this module media interface ID. Then you finally get the type. And another example, today's example is for QSFP-28 optics. So here you also go to the same COI, but you go check the identifier. If it's QSFP-28, then you go to that another section called specification compliance. Under that, you go check the compliance code. If it's extended, then you go to the specific compliance field. Then you finally find the type there. So as you can see, so people need to go through a bunch of different fields to find out the useful information. There are a lot of noise, so there's no unified way to get the type. So our proposal is that to tackle this pain point is we come up with one dedicated COI, and we hide all the complicated flows from user and do all the things under hood. So now what happened under hood is that the necessary data are parsed and gathered from EEPROM, and the transceiver D will push those info to the Redis DB, and the COI will retrieve the relevant data from Redis DB and follows different specs to go through different steps and finally determine the optics type. So with this new approach, so there's no more manual checking on multiple steps and fields. So there's also have better readability. So as you can see, this COI is called the show interface transceiver type. This new COI we added. So on the left side, it will have all the port number. On the right side, it has the type. So it's very easy to get a whole picture of the entire router. And with this, we also have a better debug-ability and the serviceability. It's easy to add more test automation based on this. So next, let's have Jesse Wu to talk about the integration of the CLI into test automation. Yeah, Jesse, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you proceed to the next slide?
Yeah, sure. So this one.
Okay, so as Long described before, with the original CLI, it's kind of hard for the test automation to find out the optics type from the output. And with the new implementation, it becomes very simple. So today's automation, from my automation, I have, this is the test topology for this automation. We have, for example, we have two DUTs. DUT means a device under test. They are different interface connected, and we need to find out the optics type for different interfaces. And after we send traffic, we need to identify which interface has the traffic drop. So with this CLI, it's very easy to identify which optics type has problem. Can proceed to the next one. So for example, this is one of my test automation script. These are the steps for the automation script. The first step is I use the new CLI Long developed to check the optics type. These are the two CLIs. We can check the type. And then I grab the information of the optics type from the output. And then I run some simple test. For example, I do some OIR test of the optics, or I do some system reboot, or I can do some interface flap, or I can send some traffic through different interfaces. And then after all the testing is done, I can verify the optics. For example, for this OIR testing, after I pull out and plug in the optics, I can verify first the optics is still there. And then I use Long's new CLI to check the optics again if the information is still the same as the first step. Can you proceed to the next one? Okay, so this is the output. This is the comparison between the old output and new output. So after this new development, we have a new field called optics type. So it's very easy for the automation script to grab this information and pass this information. Next one. And this is the CLI show interface transceiver with type. This is the new option type. So from this CLI, we can see there are two fields in the output of this CLI. The port is the Ethernet 2, and the type is 100 gig AR4. So it's very easy for the automation script to grab those information. I don't have to go through the output, a large amount of output to grab all the info, go through different steps to grab the information for 100 gig, or if it's 400 gig, it's LR or FR. So this CLI reduce the automation work and also simplify the automation. So I think that's all from our presentation. Any questions?
Any questions from the audience?
Okay. There's one last section, and let me quickly go through that. Thanks, Jesse.
Okay.
So for the current and the current status and next status. So for now, the most change and the test was done. So it's integrated into our test script and our test framework. So next is that we think about upstream the code, since this is common CLI for SONiC. So we will also think about integrating to more test automation after that. Yeah, okay, thanks. That's it all.